It looks like there are a ton of questions. So with that, let's invite everybody back. Fred, Brooke, Nancy. All right. So let me kick back to earlier in the Q&A here. All right, so here's a very debatable question. And while Brooke, you talked about attribution models, Nancy, Fred, feel free to chime in here, right? So what is the best attribution model for e-commerce?
I should just take a drink. It depends. I've made a game out of it. I almost rephrase the question of not what is best for e-commerce, but what is the best attribution model based on the tactics that you're doing. I think that's going to be the most important. So that being said, depending on where your efforts lie, if you have a brand new brand and you really need to get the word out, you're going to spend a lot way up here. And the demand to understand who your brand is and to generate that is going to take some time. So if you are in that category, I'd recommend kind of more either those like position-based, potentially looking at first interaction. But it really depends on where your business is at and what you're doing.
So I'm going to add something here as well. So we often talk about attribution as it relates to bidding, right? But those models always exist in whatever your analytics system is. So if you're thinking about, we need to reallocate budget, let's go look at a linear model to see, was there even a touch point here? We're trying to figure out if we should increase spend at certain areas from our brand department. Well, let's go look at first touch. So just because you're using one from bidding doesn't mean the others don't have applicable uses in different types of data analysis. This is a very open-ended question. Have you ever had issues with Facebook and Google attributions? Facebook versus Google attributions.
Is that one to me or just
whoever has an opinion, you may chime in.
I'm going to ask about is this group familiar with Amazon attribution? Have you guys used Amazon attribution at all in kind of tying in some of those off Amazon search efforts? I'm genuinely curious about the adoption. If anyone wants to put it in the chat. Because part of your question, Brad, too, is, what models are available on Amazon? That's extremely limited. And so they're only giving you certain pieces of data. And we have partnered with our Google and social team to understand the impact on Amazon using, okay, awesome, Jenny. We have partnered with them to understand, what is driving, what posts and things like that are driving traffic to Amazon, so that we can attribute credit to those teams and help kind of advocate for budget there. So Amazon attribution, I also think is going to be something that they're going to continue to expand, because Amazon is hearing the need for this kind of connected, multimedia strategy.
Right. And what's interesting about Amazon is that, unlike directing people to our websites to do something where we can easily track it, Amazon, it's like on Amazon. So they have to give us their own attribution models. And there's a beta, or I guess it may be out of beta at this point, so you can ask them for that. But I think, maybe the whole Facebook versus Google question is also like, is it in-channel attribution versus cross-channel attribution? Because obviously, Facebook is going to take all the credit for within channel. Any interaction happened, even if it started off at Google, right? And that's why you want to look at platforms like Google Analytics, because they'll give you the cross-platform view into things. And then you just have to figure out for yourself. Obviously you want to optimize within the channel, maybe use the channel data for that, but you still want to make bigger budget decisions, and those might be cross-channel attribution based.
Hey, so Brooke, you went through a lot of stuff on settings of like, these things mess things up, right? You put this in GA, you put this in Google Ads, and GA is always gonna be Google Analytics to me.
Yes.
I know GA is now Google Ads too, right? But it's ingrained. Will Google Analytics 4 introduce some new problems of tracking or attribution that we should also be aware of as we move to GA4?
That is a great question, and I'm in the process of just really diving deep into that. So I don't have a ton to share right now, and I also don't want to misspeak while I'm like doing my own research for clients, but my gut instinct is there will likely be some things that we will have to get used to. Specific to, I know I have a client where we're looking at their web presence, but then they also have app data too. So, you know, when those are starting to combine, you're getting a little bit more data in between and it's less segmented. I think that's going to be interesting, but I'm sure there's going to be some nuances or things that we're going to have to either change whatnot to get to the data that we need to, or at least decipher it in that way. So I'm happy to follow up on that, but that's a great question.
Yeah.
And let me can I make a shameless plug, Brad? So PPC Town Hall this Wednesday, 9 a.m. Pacific. We got Ken Williams. Brooke is coming back, and we're actually going to answer that specific question and go deep on attribution.
And you know, more part of paid search organization's goal is to also promote some of the other shows and work with everyone. SMX Report is next week, which is also going to get into some GA4 and so forth. Mike, who again is someone we should all thank for putting things together, Mike Friedman. He made a comment, paid search is 23 years old this month. GoTo.com launched 23 years ago this month. So if you guys don't know GoTo.com and Bill Gross, well, we won't do a history lesson. Two names you should probably know. Anyway, so how much conversion data does one need to switch to smart bidding?
So surprisingly, none. And so here's the thing, right? So with smart shopping campaigns, there used to be a requirement you had to have some level of conversions, and it's always gone down. It used to be 50, then it became 30, then it became 15. But now Google will let you build a smart shopping campaign, which has by default automated bidding with no previous conversion data. And so kind of what Google's probably doing is it's using data from across its huge ecosystem to start making predictions before it sees anything about your business. They haven't really officially disclosed that's what they do, but that's really the only answer to how is it possible you can start automated bidding with no conversion data. But then on the flip side of that, obviously, if you just have 5, 10, 15 conversions per month, that's not a ton of data for it to make decisions on, right? So you may not see quite the results without putting a lot of effort of your own on top of it versus someone who's got thousands of conversions a month.
So Fred, that gets into a question that I get asked a lot from our giant clients, right? Is if I'm the big beast in the industry, why should I use Google's conversion tracking and Google Smart Bidding? Because aren't I just giving Google data to make my competitors more efficient?
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. So the beauty of conversion tracking is that you really put in whatever data you want, right? So I hear that concern about, should I really put in my profit value in the value field? I mean, I think you probably should, because it just makes bidding that much more efficient. But if you truly have a concern, then index those values, right? Like you were kind of alluding to before as well. But yeah, I mean, once the data goes into Google, like they're going to do what they want to do.
Yeah. Nancy, do you run into that at all? I know Tenuity's got a lot of big clients. And if Aaron is on the call right now, I know Aaron's had this conversation. So Aaron, feel free to chime in and chat as well.
Awesome. Yeah, Aaron can definitely add additional context. On the marketplaces side, we get a very similar question, and often my response to clients is, you may not be doing it, but your competitors are. And so unless there's this collective, like no brand is giving any data, which is really going to limit their ability to even get those targeted audiences and things like that. It doesn't really do much for one brand to kind of withhold that. And so the benefits far outweigh, those kind of competitor concerns. And that's where really we have to layer in, like, what is the strategic benefit of being able to have, those audiences, because even as big brands, they're competing with other big brands. And it is beneficial to understand, how can we target an Under Armour audience, or how do we kind of retain our Nike competitor audience. And so that's kind of that conversation, is the benefits outweigh those pieces. And yeah, I don't think, there's so much data available, and Amazon has access to so many parts of our shopping habits. There's not really a way they will find a way to get that data.
Yeah, I know we have some industries where the top spenders, it goes like 12 million, 10 million, 8 million, 3 million, and then a lot of people under 100,000, like a massive amount under 100,000. And so like, it's always the big people saying, we spend half the entire industry spend, right? Why should we inform this? And I think as much a brain question and philosophy as anything, or lawyers get involved, which is an interesting time. So what attribution model, a lot of attribution questions today, in bidding strategy do you recommend with dedicated landing pages? Would you change it for dedicated landing page?
I personally wouldn't. You can, just think depending on how many campaigns you have and you're building out dedicated landing pages for each one. I kind of go back to reframing it as to what tactic or are you doing? Is it a YouTube campaign where it's like very likely high top of funnel, or is it just a non-branded search? Like I would base it off of the tactic and kind of where they're at versus if it was just a specific landing page. Now, say you didn't have that kind of like your end all conversion piece on that landing page where it's kind of like a freemium, like, hey, I'm going to give you this, like a free download, and it's gated. You could kind of play with attribution models that way, but I'm more along the lines of what tactic, what platform are you using?
Yeah, and as far as bidding, I think where the question is trying to lead us is to say, well, you have a landing page, so you expect people to convert right there, right then. But the reality is that conversion is likely not going to be the thing you really wanted. So again, it might be a lead, but was it a high quality lead? So you still have to inform it after the fact, after your sales team starts to qualify that lead. Was it better than average? Was it worse than average? And use offline conversion imports to feed that back into the system, because the worst thing you can do is take a very short view and lots of people filling out the form, but they're all coming from the one country that is really cheap to advertise in, but nobody's buying your product because it's too expensive for that market. And unless you tell Google that, they just don't know, and they're going to get you more of that traffic that you end up not caring about.
Yeah, and that just reminded me, it's not an e-commerce client, but it's relevant to the fact is, they have a dedicated landing page where their main offer for like new people is like free trial, free demo. And they get really disappointed when somebody's coming in the first time and they're not signing up for the free trial or demo. I'm like, but still, like, it's still their first touch point. Do you expect them to convert? And I think that there's like just that expectation around like everything's going to happen right away at once. So in that instance, there is a case to argue that you should be looking at attributions based on that specific landing page. But it also goes back to, this was a brand building effort. Even if you're giving them something for free, it still might take them 3 or 4 interactions to actually do something.
So Fred, you shared a graphic about how Google said in 2019, 70% of people use smart bidding. Now, which is automated bidding, right? Which includes Marin, Kenshu, whatever. Yeah. Or in-house bid systems. Do they show at all how many people are using only Google Smart Bidding, or if it gets a spend difference or anything that segments that at all?
I asked them, and the unofficial number in our ecosystem would be in the 60-ish%.
Use Google's bidding.
Use smart bidding.
Wow, we're way different. We see a lot of people with either in-house systems or Marin Kenshu or some other or Google 360. Huh.
Yeah, and let's not get started on Kenshu and Marin. Like, it's just why?
Well, so I would argue we see a lot of companies their in-house algorithms blow away Google because they're bringing in unique data that Google won't take right now. So what?
Yeah, no, sorry. You finished that.
Oh, and so if you're bringing in, hey, we bring our, you know, our DSP data, our Facebook data, our whatever into one place. We run machine learning off our own stuff. We add our Adobe Audience Manager and our third-party audience managers back into this, and then we push things back out. Google can't touch the amount of data they're actually using and setting bids, and we do see a lot of larger companies who are good with data, which is a very important caveat.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
really sophisticated people who do keyword intent bundling.
Right, and I agree with that. I mean, and the whole point about smart bidding and us having to shift how we do optimization is looking at our own data, but then making those decisions, like what pieces of that data that we know drives our business, what can we fairly assume Google can see if we just give it better conversion data? And then what are the things we can see, like the example I gave, if you do a press release, like, does that have a meaningful impact? Is there something about some factor, like, is it snowing, that just really pertains to your business? And so you have to change your targets based on that. You have to change your value reporting based on that. But ultimately, for me, to try to like manually bid based off all of that is still only half of the solution, right? I mean, I think you need to do the in-house analysis of what moves the needle, and then find ways to feed that in some way. And that's what I did at Google so much, was like engineers would build a system and it was like, okay, here's how it's supposed to work. But then there was the real world of advertisers, and how do we make that shit work for what we really need to do? And that's kind of what we're asking here too, right? Like there's this whole framework of smart bidding, but it is limited in terms of what it can take in. But what are the backdoors? What are the sneaky little ways that you can actually manipulate it to get where you need it to go? Because I mean, and the reason smart bidding is amazing is because it's the only system in the world that can do auction time bid updates. Like Marin can't do that, Kenshu can't do it. I mean, they would love to. I would love to do it for Optimizer, but it's just not going to happen, right? And there's so much value in that real-time auction level bidding. And then if you combine it with your business data, like that's the holy grail.
Yeah,
Fred,
we have a long ways for that.
You bring up a really interesting point, and just, you know, how we get there. And, you know, I'm translating the Google language into the Amazon space. So bear with me here, but we are actually developing a tool that we're calling Next Best Dollar. And essentially what that's doing is it's pulling in all these different impacts, all these different pieces of data to understand where our clients should be bidding higher or lower. And then understanding, you know, what are those impacts? Like you said, is it seasonality? Is it what's happening in the news? Is it a new product launch that, you know, pairs well with something else in our catalog? So we're testing that with a couple clients also to understand, like, when have we maxed out on a certain, you know, sponsored product, you know, ad type, and when is it time to, you know, maybe test something new? So that's something that even on the marketplaces side, you know, we're starting to continue to develop, and that is all in-house. This is not available through Amazon. So thankfully we have that API that we can do that. But yeah, it's definitely something that we're continually challenged with.
So thank you, Nancy.
Yeah.
You know way more about Amazon, I think, than the rest of us combined. I know Fred is quite a bit with Amazon too. I do not.
And I'm learning a bunch too. So appreciate you guys all sharing. This has been a great day.
So H3, someone mentioned, aren't they going away? They're less often seen. Have you heard anything about H3 is going away? Headline 3s?
I haven't heard it, but I agree with the statement. We hardly see them show in any of our ads. So it's been kind of difficult trying to understand like what's going to work best for us as we, you know, are constantly updating our ad copy. It also makes me wonder, like, why are we putting in so much effort to write these ads if they're not going to show? But I haven't heard that they're going away, at least from my end.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's no good way to report how often they're being displayed, right? You have to go anecdotal evidence. And I see some industries, it's like if everyone's got H3s, everyone gets them displayed. If only half the people have them, then it seems like one or two get this incredible bump in their data, which Google tries to normalize CTRs a bit, which is why position 1 often has less extensions shown than, you know, 2 and 3 and stuff. All right. So what do you guys think about this? So I hear you with the one RSA per ad group guidelines, but what do you think about RSAs being duplicated in the same ad group? The only difference being the URL. So essentially the same RSA twice with different URLs. Google does not duplicate lines across RSAs, right, Fred? So they still see that as 10,000 and 10,000 combinations,
Yeah.
and the URL is just yet one more.
Yeah, but then you wonder too about machine learning, right? Because that will know that the footprint of the components of the ad are the same. So it'll probably see now if you're doing conversion rate, sorry, if you're doing smart bidding and one of your landing pages seems to convert better, then the system will probably pick up on that and start to favor the one with the better landing page. So in that way, you'd probably see better results.
But okay. Because sometimes I find it with multiple RSAs in an ad group, Google's system it's like it can't handle the variables. And weird stuff happens with it. That's just all over the place. Yes, the streaming will be available. David will let everyone know on those details later on. If you messed up the conversion setup in Google Ads, how would it affect the machine learning? Oh, this sounds like a bad rabbit hole.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a short answer. So there's data exclusion. That's a setting in smart bidding. So just go ahead and for the period that you were broken, exclude that data so that you can actually start with a clean slate when you do have it fixed. Because yeah, it'll be bad.
Mm-hmm. We had that happen with a client. It was they were trying to say like anybody who submitted a form was a lead, and before we came on board, it was set up that anybody who visited that page, that was the conversion. It was not on the button click, and so it really messed with the bidding strategies then too, because if you were using like a target CPA, all of a sudden you see traffic drop overnight. So to Fred's point, like learning how to use those data exclusions too will be beneficial.
So speaking of feeding Google data, rather than relying on Google's algorithm and audiences, is there a way to target your most valuable revenue generating audiences with your own first party data, not relying on Google stuff? So yes, right. If you're doing manual bidding, you can obviously use your own first party data and just up the bids. Fred, to you, right? So if you're doing manual bidding, you could do this however you want to with your own prioritization of bids. If you're using smart bidding and you put in audiences, right, then Google uses the audience data in smart bidding. Can you prioritize the audiences,
Yes.
right, with smart bidding to say we prefer audience 1 over 2?
So that is literally what audience bid adjustments will do from a smart bidding perspective. So check out that chart. It's in the URL is in the notes, but that's how audiences work. If you want to go to real extreme, I mean, you set up duplicate campaigns, one for each audience.
So when you say, okay, I know Google says prioritize, right? Like, okay, so there's a couple places where you can add bid adjustments that are not used by smart bidding and Google will prioritize them. How much priority do they really give? Do you need to set adjustments of like plus 500 and plus 300 to really show a big difference? Can you go plus 10 and plus 5? Like, how extreme do you need to be in these adjustments to make Google understand this is actually a priority?
Yeah, I don't want to tell you a number because back in the day, I once said ad groups should have between 5 and 20 keywords when I was at Google, and that became sort of the gospel at that point, even though I just made it up. So let me get you a real answer on that, and then we'll share that.
No, Rob, manual bidding is not dead. We see, so manual bidding where you're doing it by hand, that should have been dead like 5 years ago. Manual bidding where you're using Google's manual CPC, but you have a third party or another system feeding in the bids, that is alive and well. Do you think manual bidding is dead?
Search engine land, I wrote a post that basically said, manual bidding is dead and you're stupid if you're still doing it. But much to your point, right? I mean, like, let's not go and crunch the spreadsheets to try to do everything that like conversion rate prediction based off of certain factors. Like, that's relatively straightforward. Like, that's not where we need to invest our effort. But I also think that when people think about automated bidding, like, automated bidding is not automated bidding. It's just automating a small piece of what we used to do manually. which is taking that conversion rate prediction or the value per conversion prediction and layering that into that next level of KPI, which is CPA or ROAS. But ultimately, business doesn't care about ROAS, business doesn't care about CPA, we care about profits, we care about revenues, right? And so there's still those calculations that you have to make. And then, like you were in the whole Marin Kenshu conversation we're having, it's like the reason that some of these systems and some of these in-house big data projects still get done is because, yeah, Google may be looking at 70 factors, but there's another 10 that you know for your business matter, and you're still going to use those factors to manipulate the targets on a daily basis potentially. And that's fine. And that's a hybrid of manual and automated.
My Google rep says no less than 3, no more than 5. I'm assuming that's not number of ads per ad group. Thoughts?
Or that might have been in reference to my keyword statement.
If it's keywords, that's just ignore it, man. There are many times more than 3 keywords is acceptable, and 1 is okay too. So if it's keywords, your Google rep is totally wrong. Let's assume it's ads for a second.
Well, if it's ads, then you'll probably have a better answer than anyone. But ultimately, it comes down to how much traffic you have, right? So if you have a small volume ad group and you're testing 5 ads at a time, like what are you going to learn? How long is it going to take? If you have a huge ad group, then yeah, run 5, run 10.
We often see if you break 5 ads, Google's ad serving gets pretty wonky at times with how they serve things and stuff that, but again, if you have a very small account, 2 ads maybe as much as you can possibly test. So it's not always a straightforward number. You have to think about what Fred was alluding to, which is, here's how many impressions we get, how long it will take to run a test. All right. I know we have more questions. Melissa. Oh, it's from Mike. Anyway, so with recent keyword changes, one attendee yesterday asked if n-grams will become more important.
I know you want to answer that too, Brad, but yeah, sure. I mean, n-grams.
Anyone can. No, I'm asking Brooke.
I don't want this question.
All right, go for it, Fred.
Well, I mean, so I think there's a couple of things, right? First of all, the search query data has been limited. So I think we all need to ask our Google reps, like, okay, fine, we get it on the privacy thing, and whether that's true or not, that's what they say it's for. So, but regardless of privacy, like, tell us the n-grams, tell us the common phrases that appear in the queries that you no longer want to show us, because we can use that to make negative keyword decisions or positive keyword decisions for that matter, right? So I think n-grams should have a role, and it should be an increasing role. As far as the recent changes last week or 2 weeks ago, BMM and phrase match becoming, the new phrase match, basically, I'm not sure n-grams really fit into that in a different way. You'd still use them to find negatives. I do think now is a good time to go back and look at your queries, right? I mean, match types once again changed how they behave, and you're going to start seeing new queries, and you just want to be really on top of your negatives. Even if there's less data for us to look at, there's still some data, and that can still tell us something.
Well, I also find n-grams are incredibly useful for finding places Google is now decided to match you to they didn't in the past, because we still see some of the matching is just awful, right? And so, but if there are a bunch of 1 impression terms or 10 impression terms, whatever, right, it's hard to see it. The n-grams really bring those patterns up. And that's where I find they can be useful from the non-negative, just saying, okay, so Google now believes sale is the same as packages, when a lot of companies, automatically bundle packages, nothing to do with sale price. My favorite still, they consider trademarks and registered trademark and trademark symbols as the same term, which of course is quite different.
Well, and you even had a great example, which I hope I'm not sharing it out of place here, but branding and logo design.
Oh yeah, yes. We logo design seems to be this term that Google can match to whatever they feel like. It's really bizarre. Yeah. There's several like that, right? All right. So what if you have really high CPCs? You got 25, 50 plus CPCs and low search activity. Is smart bidding still effective?
Well, I mean, I think it's limited by budget, right? So just like in manual bidding, you want to have a high enough budget to allow the system to buy multiple clicks per day. Generally, guideline would be at least 10x. So that's one point. And then I think smart bidding can be effective regardless of how high your bids are, because it can go and find those potential queries that, maybe aren't at those high CPCs, and have a lower probability of converting, but then hence also get a lower bid. So it finds you that new volume. So I don't think there's really anything to say that at a certain CPC level, SB becomes more or less effective. I think and I put this in my book, right? But digital marketing in an AI world, the role that we as humans have to play is one of them is the PPC doctor. So it's about understanding these interactions, and right, just a high bid with smart bidding, that might be fine, but did we look at the budget? Because that might be the thing that now comes into play and mucks with everything else, right? So as we put these medicine and these solutions in place, how do things begin to interact? I wish I could give you a shorter answer, but that's why we're always on these sessions, right? Like nothing in PPC is easy and like clear cut.
All right.
And
Please go ahead.
I was just going to piggyback off of that. We have some smaller clients where, again, they might only have a couple $1,000s a month, but they are in a very competitive space. We're talking like $30, $40, $50 CPCs. Oh, sorry, my cat is like sitting on my computer. But they try to do everything at once. They're like, can we put like $50 a day here? Can we, like, they want to run all of these different things. So to that point of, could it be too limiting? I would say yes, if you're trying to run all of these campaigns at once. If you're starting with a limited budget and you've got high CPCs, stick with the themes that you feel like are your core competitive pieces and start there. Prove the value of it, and then you can expand, and don't try to do everything at once. So I would just want to add that caveat in there too.
I was just going to add, translating it to Amazon as well. We always start with our automatic campaign so that we can understand how our consumer is interacting with that product on the platform, and if it is different to your other platforms that you're using. So we always start with that. We will put some manual campaigns into the mix, but that's kind of where we start. And to Brook's point, based on budget, as well as client goals, we'll often we keep it very, very simple: green, orange, red, and we'll tag campaigns based on the priority of that relative to the client's goals. So similar on the Amazon side.
So Google pushes automatic bidding, but clients want to see their ads in the top 4. Max clicks doesn't cut it. What do you do, right? All right, so the client's like, why is my ad not at the top of the page? What do you guys do with that?
I mean, there's different types of bidding strategies that you can do in terms of impression share. You can do like top of page rate, but sometimes depending on the competitiveness, like that gets very expensive, or you may only show at the absolute top 10, 20% of the time. So you can test out different things to see what works. But also, I find it's very hard to explain to them, like, you might not see your ad in the top 4, but somebody over here might, because it's that real-time auction bidding. Like they're going to show it in 2 different ways to 2 very different people based on their intention of how they feel like they're going to engage with it.
Yeah. So Brooke, so you're one of your clients who spends $1,000 a month, who's a lawyer in Minneapolis, comes in and says, I want to be the top of the page all day long. You've had that conversation before, right? What's your answer?
Oh gosh.
Pony up, buddy. Pony up.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, show me the money. But it's, it's having those hard conversations and setting the realistic expectations of, what do you want to show up for? Well, for anything, it's like, no, find like, what is your core? Like you can start testing a couple different things, but yeah, lawyers in Minneapolis, DUI lawyers, you could look at $100, $200, $300 CPCs. But it's just unrealistic. And sometimes you have to have those not fun conversations first and get them to like, start small, start somewhere, but it's not going to be all of the time. You have to prove that value, because I've been in that situation time and time again where I'm like, okay, we'll do this. And then they're not seeing the results right away. I'm like, you can't do everything at once. And so then they say it doesn't work. So they're just never happy.
We have a lot of, I said my background is in luxury beauty, and we have a lot of luxury beauty clients that work with us. They'll come and they say, well, we're the #1 seller in Sephora. How come we're not top of the SERP on Amazon? How come our bids aren't winning, that sponsored brand placement? And it's a very similar conversation. And often, Brad, we'll back up that conversation with data. Here's your budget, here's what CPCs cost, and essentially back into that. And then the other thing we do is, we do have retargeting is huge on Amazon, and you can do that with a really low budget. And so that, to some clients, starting with a display ad feels a little too high in the funnel as opposed to kind of search ads, but we sometimes may flip it. And so I think it's being strategic with what you have, and then backing that up with, like Brooke said, some of that data on what are the actual costs of playing in that space.
And sometimes less is more, right? So if
Right.
you have $100 a day budget and you're paying $1 for the first position, and you can be in position 5 for 50 cents and still spend your budget, you just doubled your clicks. So sometimes there is your best solution is actually to lower your bids and not be there. All right. Thoughts on SCAGs?
They don't.
You rolled your eyes, Brooke, so yeah, you got to go.
I keep remembering, like, oh, I've had tweets about some of these things, and I think that's where your Ngram conversation was going, because I had some thoughts about that. But they used to work, and just with the loosening of match types, they just don't anymore, and they've become more inefficient, at least for our clients. And so really for us, it's been, again, I think somebody had used the term like intent grouping your keywords. That's become more beneficial to us, and less overall like management in terms of like, okay, I need this keyword to show up only here, and you're spending so much of your time combing through queries to make sure you're not cross-pollinating. So they've become less important for our clients, and it's been more intent based and search volume driven. But it would love to hear, if there's anything different that you guys are doing too.
Yeah, I mean, so there was almost a footnote in the BMM change announcement from Google, which basically said that they are fixing the preference for when the keyword matches exactly to the query, which means that some of the cross-pollination that we have been seeing, and we all have tools for, and we have scripts to deal with that, may actually become a little bit less important, because Google presumably will now give preference to the right keyword, which would indicate that SCAGs may actually regain some of the power that they used to have. But whether that's truly going to happen, I mean, it's just really too soon to tell. We're going to start testing it now that the changes are launching. But that is a footnote I think Google didn't make a big deal about. And Brad, I know you've talked to the product managers about it and may not fully agree on what the press release said.
No, that's the reason I had to use the word preference, right? Because the problem was they initially wanted to prioritize it and say it will show. But if your exact match has an ad rank of 5 and your phrase match has an ad rank of 15, but this is prioritized, then we can't show the phrase match, but this one is too low, so we show nothing instead. And so that was the problem initially, is there would be a lot of situations, if they made it an absolute, you would not show an ad, which is why they used the word preferred, meaning we'll say we'll do it this way, but if it can't work out, we don't care. We're still going to serve something.
Right, and a good point too. So if you take the exact same keyword and you replicate it in exact phrase and broad, then the preference is completely up to Google based on ad rank, right? Because from a query perspective, they're all exact matches to whatever the user searched for. But it's the moment that it becomes a variation through phrase or through broad or even through close variants, I guess. At that point, Google seems to indicate they're going to stop doing that quite as much as they have in the past and try to show the ad that matches where the keyword has the exact same text as the query.
Yeah. And so it's more of a mathematical problem in the back end of people not serving stuff, right? And Google does not want to lower auction pressure, of course. And I've always hated SCAGs, by the way. I always thought they're a waste of time. The intent-based ad groups, whatever you want to call it, it's always my favorite. So for a brand new account, we'd start off with smart shopping or standard shopping? Brand new, no data.
It depends on how much effort you're going to put into it, right? So the reason I think that smart shopping is so nice is that it's newer in PPC. So I think a lot of agencies and practitioners kind of like take it on as an afterthought and maybe are not as good at it. Maybe don't spend as much time as they should. In that case, yeah, absolutely. Smart shopping is going to outperform doing a lousy job or basically not doing much. But if you work with a bigger client and you kind of got your strategy figured out and you got prioritization that you're going to use, and the campaign prioritization within shopping, high, medium, low, that still works. You're going to do like query sculpting to get the right, brand level searches to go to one of them and non-brand to another. Like all of that still works, right? But it takes time, it takes effort. So in that case, I would say, yeah, go for regular.
Mhm.
All right. Hey, Nancy, does Amazon have audience targeting, the in-market, and all these different categories of users?
Yeah, so great question. I'm going to separate it out into the two platforms. So Amazon advertising, which historically has been AMS, and then display. So display is the easy one. We have in-market, lifestyle, and retargeting audiences readily available. We don't have in-market audiences within our search ad platform. However, we can, there is, product targeting. There is, like product targeting or alternative product targeting. So we can make our own in-market audiences through that. But if you're talking about, specifically just being able to target an audience, that can be done through Amazon's display.
Okay, excellent. And you three have answered every person's question. It's amazing. No one has any more questions. So where do you think we're going this year in paid search? Right. So every year, everyone likes the predictions, but of course, last year went crazy. Are we in for the same? It's more machine learning. Google's going to pull up back some more ad serving, less control. We had the year of audiences where finally audiences are really sort of took center stage. Where do you think we're going?
Yeah, I mean, there was one question.
Where?
Yeah, well, no, and we answered all questions, but Mukesh was basically saying like, I worry we lose control to optimize, right? And I think that's sort of at the heart of the worry that people have. And I think, yes, we are going to continue to see more automation. Google's going to go down that path. Why? Because they make more money, because advertisers, when they do it right, they make more money. So all in all, I mean, there's really no reason to go back in a different direction. But I think we're just at this stage where we have to make a huge mind shift, right? We're not losing control. We're losing the controls we used to have, but we still have different controls. And so we need to re-educate. We need to figure out like, how is it we bring our data to bear on making the machine learn better, right? And the machine learning may be limited. So we may have to use backdoors to achieve that. And so we're frustrated at losing the controls we've had for so long, but I think it's actually a really great opportunity to provide a lot of value to our clients, to our businesses, because there is a ton of stuff we can do. And basically, the things that we focused on were a lower value in the grand scheme of things, and we can now actually go and focus on the higher value things.
I would like to piggyback off of that and 100% agree. Like we're just talking about that in our agency, you said it great. We're re-educating ourselves and almost like kind of redefining our role and what we play with our clients. And it's a lot less in the day-to-day. I wouldn't say that's new. That's been coming, like last year, couple of years. But just wanted to validate, we're seeing the same thing with our agency, Fred. In my opinion, like from where are we going, I think privacy is going to be a big thing as we're continuing to see other platforms, talking about, only allowing like first party data or, I kind of alluded to this, like some people can actually, you can prevent Google Analytics, excuse me, Brad, Google Analytics, like from loading. And so I feel like tracking users is going to be more and more difficult, and just finding ways to piece together some of these attributes to make sure that we're making the most educated decisions. And again, more coming on that with Google Analytics 4. But I think that's going to be a main focus for at least what we're looking at with our clients.
I absolutely agree. Even as it translates into, the Amazon space, it is the privacy piece. I think, with the resignation or shift of Jeff Bezos to the board and the AWS person coming in, I'm going to be really interested to see if they break off AWS and what happens there, and you know, how that might address some of those privacy concerns. So Brooke, I think that's something that I'm definitely watching out for too, especially also when it comes to Amazon's 3P sellers. You know, those 3P sellers have access to email addresses and you know, addresses and things like that, and they're using that for advertising. So, you know, how is Amazon gonna protect those customers? The second thing that I would add there that I think is going to be interesting to watch is voice. You know, I think Amazon is coming up with some really cool options in advertising for voice as well as OTT. So that's something that my team is kind of continuing to stay on top of. I will add in one final piece on that is Twitch. So Amazon now has Twitch inventory. I think this adds a new dynamic, and these are full screen video ads that essentially take over that gamer's you know, break or whatever it is. And so it's going to be interesting to see how Amazon advertising partners with Twitch and you know, those really engaged audiences. So those are kind of the top three, Brad, that I'm looking at this year.
Excellent, excellent. And with that, we are just about out of time. Where can everyone find you? The most important question: do you hang out on LinkedIn, Twitter, your home, and they have to find you at home? Like, where are you? Right? Where do people come and find you?
Great question. Well, if anyone's ever in San Diego, please stop by post-pandemic. I would love to meet for coffee or cocktail, but LinkedIn or Twitter, I'd be happy to take any more questions.
Handle on Twitter?
Nancy McLaughlin on Twitter and Nancy McLaughlin on LinkedIn.
That's pretty easy. Brooke?
Yeah, same. So you probably don't want to come to Minnesota right now. It is, it's warmer than it was like a week ago, but it's nice and snowy. I'm pretty active on Twitter and LinkedIn when I can be. I had my Twitter handle in my presentation. It's just at Brook Osmundson. And then my LinkedIn should also just be Brook Osmundson, but I can drop it in the chat too.
Fred?
Yeah, for me, find me on Twitter at Silicon Valleys, spelled like my last name, so kind of hard to spell, but you'll find me.
Excellent, excellent. And on BG Theory on Twitter or wherever else you can just search and find most of us. We're not too hard to, we don't hide very well. So with that, we are at happy hour time. So thank you all for speaking. Thank you for your day today. It was wonderful. I've seen only positive comments, nothing negative. So that's always a good takeaway at the end of the day. And with that, we will turn it over to David, who will bring us into happy hour time.
This is analogous to, I just figured out, it's like day Thursday at a multi-day conference. You know, we're all kind of tired. We all could use a drink, and we gather either over a dinner table or a bar stool set up, and we talk about everything. We talk about our lives. We talk about how we really feel about attribution. So that's what we're going to do right now. And I'm going to invite the other board members who have been lurking around to pop in. And attendees, I'm happy to pull you into this room to talk with us. If you'll type into the chat box, I'd like to join. So let's see, everybody Brooke, do you have your drink? You're on mute.
I just saw that. I might have to go get an actual drink. I still have my coffee.
Oh, okay.
So I might pop right back. So.
All right, that's cool. I'm going to pop this can.
Is taken over San Francisco. Like you're the Godzilla of San Francisco, right?
I never remember what thing I have. I don't even know how this one got on, because I had the PSA one, but then I took it off to do a non-industry thing, and then suddenly this is back on. I have no idea.
Yeah, well, normally I don't use one because I find they're actually kind of distracting, except I'm in my daughter's office. So without seeing, all the girl empower, if you want to see lots of girl empowerment stuff, it's all over the place, right? As I'm in her office today, not mine.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm in our kitchen right now, so actually it's probably best that the bridge is up. So
Brad, if it makes you feel any better, we are remodeling our duplex that we have. And so I'm basically in like this, it's going to be a second bedroom, but it's like a closet right now. And I had to rearrange my desk specifically for this because otherwise you'd see just like clothes and clothes and clothes. Like this just, I cannot wait for my office to be done.
Yeah, no, I get that's why we're remodeling our all of our bathrooms, right? So that's why I'm in my office is directly below the master. So otherwise you'd be hearing a wet saw right now, which I don't know would be a very good ambiance.
My clients got used to, I mean, we did everything on this house, the siding, the roofing, calling it a lemon of a house. I'm going to just be real honest, but at least, yeah. So my work hours get shifted to weird times when that's not going on.
And Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
We like seeing Melissa.
Hey,
we don't see
everybody.
Melissa enough.
Hey.
There's Andrea. How are you doing, Andrea? You're muted right now.
Yeah, no, we're just dealing with a client that added a no index tag to the whole website by accident.
Oh,
So pretty fun. They got de-indexed completely. Very fun day.
Oh no.
so when was the last time we were together drinking at a conference?
My last conference was it February? Like
yeah,
right
we were in
nick of time.
San Francisco, San Jose.
Yeah.
Last February.
Yeah. And it definitely felt like we were at the beginning or the end. Or
we didn't know, right? We knew people were staying home and it was a lower attendance, but we did not know what was coming. And anyone who predicted this, everyone was wrong who said I predicted this. All of you were wrong.
Yeah, no one. This is no. and then even when it did start happening, it was like, all right, well, I still had things in I had trips in April, and then it was like, I guess not. Then May. I'm like, oh, definitely May will happen. June.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh my God.
And then it's like schools get us 1 day off, a week off, 2 weeks off. Oh, your kids are going to be home the rest of your lives, right? Like,
yeah. So crazy. Hey, Jason.
Hi, Jason.
Hey there, sorry, I had to log out and log back in. There was an issue with my video.
No problem. For the attendees, everybody on the screen is a member of the board of directors of the Paid Search Association and contributed to this conference in one way or another. Let's see, except Brooke. Brooke is not on the board, not yet.
I am on the board of our local MinSearch Association in Minneapolis. So
nice. I can attest to your story about kind of living in the closet by the very first phone call we did, me, you, and Adam.
Right. Yep, you saw the closet.
I very delicately said, "Are you in a closet?"
Yes, I was. I mean, it's a bedroom, but not a bedroom right now.
So, Jenny, when do you think the next physical conference will be held? Search conference.
I know there are hopes for. Well, I think, aren't there some planned? Like, I feel like some have said we're going ahead and not fall. Like, I feel like somebody's planning summer, maybe? Am I making this up? I feel like someone has something in person scheduled for summertime. I could be wrong. But I know there's a lot of hopes for fall timing.
Yeah, it's more about you can schedule it, but will they come, right? It's the whole like build it, but they don't come type of a thing to be worried about.
I'm trying to remember who it was. They were like, no matter what. I don't know. I think the local one, maybe Texas. What's the one in there? Like, I don't know.
The FWSEM.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
State of search. I'm looking on PubCon's site, and they kind of imply that they're going to be holding a conference, but they don't have details on the location or the dates.
But they also were going to hold PubCon in person last November until like almost the last minute they went virtual.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I read something this morning. Let me look it up here. That there will be a hero conference June 2nd to the 3rd, 2021 in Austin.
Oh, so maybe that's what I was thinking about.
Must be the one, Jenny. Yeah.
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah. Now, I thought I saw something today that said, and this is related, I think, to their acquisition by Brain Labs. But I think I read something that said that it would be not PPC specific. It would include SEO sessions.
That's the virtual summit they're doing in March.
Virtual summit in March. Okay.
Yeah, and they're combining Search Love with some element of PPC Hero.
Oh, that's right. We talked about that yesterday.
Yeah.
There you go. Mike threw it in the chat. Mike seems to know everything.
Nice.
Get up.
Advanced Search Summit. What is that? Oh, that's Jim Christian's thing.
Is that the one in Napa?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we're all supposed to be vaccinated by summer,
July.
July.
There's a thing in Bali in November. Anyone want to go to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think that's the thing. It's like, who is, I don't know. I feel like people are going to be ready to travel. And so Bali, where if you had asked me last year, I would have been like, I don't know. That sounds like a lot of work, a lot of effort. No, I don't care. I'll fly in a plane for 6 days straight.
And now it's like if you have to be in a 2-week quarantine, like I'd take Bali over Minnesota, I guess. Sorry, bro.
Yeah.
No brainer.
None taken.
Okay, one more time for the attendees, if you want to join us in this virtual room and chat with us and get to know each other, type into the chat box, I'd like to join. And
I thought that was great today, you guys, by the way. All the presentations. It was really good. And good chat. And
Thank you.
and Nancy, the Amazon attribution, it's funny. I had a call with Simon Polton a few weeks ago because I was picking his brain about it. It's interesting. I mean, it has the ways to go, but there's potential there.
Yeah, I mean, the place I first got introduced to it is one of our clients, One Brands. They were kind of debating whether they switch their website to drive directly to Amazon. And we were trying to figure out like, okay, well, what are the other influences? Where is the consumer buying? Because if they're buying on Amazon anyway, does this make the most sense? And so that has been, a couple of years ago when it was first in alpha that we started testing it. But especially hearing some of the conversations today, it has definitely got a long way to go. But on the Amazon marketplaces side, we'll take what we can get. So
yeah, because I was using for a company that they sell direct and they sell on Amazon and other channels, but they do direct some of their AdWords or Google Ads to Amazon when based on shipping issues and all of that. So it is nice now to at least have some level of insight. And I do think I mean, they do it for specific products, but it is also interesting to be able to see total sales impact as well. So, I mean, the idea of it is great.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it further kind of connects that experience for the consumer. And Amazon attribution came out first, and then Amazon post came out. And so I always wonder when I see a new ad type, can I link back to like where Amazon got their data to develop, you know, this new program? And so it is really interesting to see the evolution of that. And I think it's going to be we're going to continue to see that. So I didn't talk about it today, but Amazon's Marketing Cloud is going to be really interesting in helping us kind of connect these media data points, because it's now allowing us to see essentially click path history, which on both search and display, it's always been last click attribution on Amazon. And so it makes it difficult to show if our top of funnel, you know, advertising is impacting sales. So Amazon is definitely putting some effort behind attribution in 2021.
Yeah, really interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to break in and welcome Laura Hofford.
Hi, Laura.
Did I pronounce it that correctly?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, thanks for letting me join. I was kind of bummed I missed the first day. I'm down here in Texas, and so as y'all have seen on the news, it's been crazy. So we actually got lucky. We didn't lose power, but we lost internet like right before the first day of this was supposed to start. So I'm looking forward to hearing the recording once
that
once
would
that
kill
comes out.
us.
Yeah, thanks.
Let's get rid of the Capitals gear.
Right, come on. I'm originally from DC. I gotta show the love.
Well, I've got to ask, is that a drum kit in the background?
It is, yeah. I've got my electronic drum kit back here. So
with a stop sign over the bass drum?
Yeah, you know, I gotta make it look kind of metal, right?
Right.
Yeah, gotta be.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what's your PPC experience?
Actually pretty limited. My background in marketing, I got started doing more social media and email marketing. But long story short, I started working a new position a few weeks ago where I answered an advertisement for an email marketing position, and I ended up being like the coordinator for the entire department. So I'm trying to learn so I can help direct some of the part-timers that are coming in that are doing PPC. So I'm trying to just kind of wrap my head around basically everything that we might be using. It sounds like they're doing a lot with Google and Facebook right now, but I was really interested in what I learned yesterday about, you know, some of these niche markets like Pinterest, and I haven't done much with Snapchat or TikTok yet, so I'm looking forward to diving into that.
All right.
Yep.
That reminds me, Brad, there was a question that wasn't answered, which was directed to you.
Yes.
Which said, when are you going to update your book?
Yeah.
Just to put you on the spot.
You know, I mean, Google changes stuff constantly. It would have to be another 150 pages. The last one was 550.
Wow.
Writing a 700-page book just sounds like torture.
Oh, yeah.
And my best excuse is Willa, my editor, is now at went to Linda, which got them bought by LinkedIn, and so I don't have my editor anymore. I don't have a good excuse really, except I don't want to write 700 pages, and things change so fast. It's just, I mean, Google changes you. I mean, think if I were written it, you know, 6 months ago, we had a match type change already, so it'd be wrong for match types. We have GA4. It wouldn't have any GA4 screenshots. Google, I don't know how many Google Ads interfaces I have right now, but I've got colored bars. I have a straight navigational bar. I have some with only side navigation with 0 top navigation. I have some that are completely collapsed when you start. I have others that are always expanded when you start. I have one that's a blue and white sidebar running down the side, which I've never seen from a Google blue-white combination before. So I think I have 5 or 6 different Google Ads colors right now. So I have to, when I log in, I have to look and say, like, which UI is this to figure out where to go.
Wow.
And it's really bizarre. I have no idea what's going on, right? It's almost like I feel like I'm in a bizarre experiment, from them. I don't know.
I just heard several attendees saying, "Well, if Brad is confused, I don't mind being as confused as I've been."
Well, do you ever log in now and be like, all right, where is this? Is it under that advanced section, which has all the really good stuff?
Yeah.
Do I click here? Then I find, and the search doesn't always bring things up. So yeah, the search is great when it brings the right screen, which is not always. I find sometimes I'm like, I'm looking for things that I feel like should be just in my face and they're somehow gone.
Well, and then you start feeling like you're getting gaslit by the interface because you're like, is this new? Did I see this yesterday? Have I not ever been able to find this thing? Is it, I don't know. You start second guessing yourself.
Yep.
I do want to give a plug to Fred, whose book name I can't remember.
Digital Marketing in an AI World.
Beautiful. Okay.
Yes.
Very up to date. But it's not a soup to nuts, learn everything there is to know about PPC. And
I know.
And I'm actually updating it.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Book coming
Should
out.
be ready by about September.
Cool.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, Greg Finn has a book coming out. I don't know when though.
On what?
On Google Ads.
That's the thing. You almost need a book now that's only shopping or only display or only search, right? Because most people aren't doing every aspect. Or B2B. Melissa, you should write a B2B book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you should.
In my spare
I
time.
support this idea.
So the ultimate book would be have an online component where the updates went online. In fact, didn't we have a system with Wiley or a proposed system where maybe this was a previous career or job where the updates were online and occasionally they would be printed out and mailed to the recipients of the book?
But have you ever tried to fit, you're reading a book, you have to know what's there. You have to think, all right, so these 3 paragraphs are wrong, and then these pages are right, then this is wrong again. Like, if you're reading like a Kindle that can be dynamically updated, great. That's seamless. That's wonderful for everybody. A paper book, I love paper. I love my Kindle, but it's impossible to keep a paper book up to date.
Yeah.
So whose book is most up to date? Who's soup to nuts? I know, I'm going to say mine's the oldest, so I don't even recommend it
I think
anymore.
Andrew Goodman's is older than yours.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did the technical editing for Andrews when I lived in Pennsylvania still, so I'm going to go back a lot of years.
Has he revised his?
Not to my knowledge.
No.
Wow.
Maybe Kirk's William is the latest because he created it. I think it was this year or late.
Oh, I can't.
Yep.
Yeah, Kirk has a book that was out this year, and then Patrick.
But they're not soup to nut books,
They're not
right?
soup to
Kirk's
nuts.
is a nice thought book.
No,
Kirk's
no.
is, yeah, Kirk's is anecdotes.
Yeah.
Well, the other one out there is the one from Cypress North, which is a Google Ads guide.
Yes.
And they come up with it this year too.
Yeah, is it out, Andrea? That's the one I was talking about, but I didn't know, Greg, if it was out yet.
Yeah, it's out.
I believe yes. You can buy it on Amazon.
Oh, good.
Cool.
I'll pass the link.
That's it's pretty soup to nuts. That's where I would start, I guess.
Well, for the few attendees that are left, I want to encourage you to give us feedback on the conference, and also for those of you who are, or even for those of you who are not PSA members, love to hear what you would like our organization to do. We've done a couple of conferences. We just, with Melissa's leadership, launched the pilot program for our mentorship program. And that means that people like Kirk Williams will actually sit down and talk with you about what you want to learn and then help you learn it. So those are a couple of things we've done, but we'd love to hear what more you would like to see us produce or do. I think we'll try to, Jenny might have good ideas about this, to survey the attendees of the conference and find out what they liked, what they did, and what they'd like to see differently.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Well, I'm going to make an executive decision and say that the shrimp is all gone. There's no more beer. And
My Chardonnay is getting warm.
Oh, just one last thing about this conference. The attendees will receive an email with instructions about how to access the recorded sessions. I've just been writing back and forth with John Lee, who's going to edit the videos down to individual ones, and it's going to take him a couple of weeks. So look for it in early March. That's okay.
Right. That's very nice of him to do.
Yeah, it is. It's not trivial. Okay,
Yeah.
so thanks everybody. Thanks Brad. Thanks Andrea. Thanks Melissa. Thanks Jenny. Thanks Jason. And
Thanks, David. Thanks, Mike.
Thank everybody.
my pleasure.
Good
Yeah.
conference.
Okay.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers,
Everybody.
everybody. Bye.